Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. It is Monday, May 13th, 2024, and it's a chilly day here in Georgia. You know, we don't always have temperatures in the 60s in mid-May, but it was in the low 60s this morning, a little bit of rain, and it has been just comfortable, but a little on the chilly side for the whole day. So that makes it good to be out here in the shop and do things. Allows me to allow some airflow to come through without worrying about high heat. And of course, there's always going to be humidity, it seems, in Georgia. But it feels pretty good to be out in the shop today. Hope everybody had a good weekend. I'm going to talk about some things I did this past weekend as well. Could be interesting to some of you, and we'll see how that goes. But I'm happy to be here tonight, and I hope all is well with all of you out there in YouTube land or Patreon land or wherever you may be coming from. I will shout out to to my patrons. They have been very, very beneficial for me, helping me to continue to make these videos. So let me just say that up front. Patreon is doing way better than what YouTube is doing. And so I just have to shout out to all of them and get them a bell for being part of this whole thing. You know, it's a challenge whenever you're trying to make videos or trying to do things, and you feel like you're spinning your wheels sometimes. You're not getting getting enough done, or you're not getting the responses back that you feel like you should be. And you know, somebody has, many people have said I'd make a good teacher for a lot of the things that I do. And I feel like sometimes if I were to have that classroom, and if I was trying to teach and like all the kids are just ignoring what I'm trying to say, it would be very frustrating to want to teach. And I've seen actually a lot of that with the modern teaching going on. My daughter's a teacher, and you know, the kids today are so distracted that they're not even paying attention to what they're being taught in schools. And you know, it's just unfortunate that that's kind of how our society has become these days. They'd rather be like entertained with their phone or whatever than to gain knowledge and use that in their future. So anyway, again, thank you to all my patrons. So like I said, it's been a good week, a good day, and I am working on the next video for the Cobra Jet series. I also want to point out that over in that box right there, it's a very heavy box. I had Redline Stands contact me, so I'm giving you some information as well. You know, I bought this from Redline Stands, this rotisserie, and as it turns out, this would be, let's say, one of their, I won't say outdated, but let's say previous model of this rotisserie. And what I mean by that is, in that box is a mechanical gear drive. So it has a crank on it that allows you to turn the car without pushing and pulling and doing that sort of thing. So it has a mechanical drive. You can crank it and index it where you want it. The problem was, you know, of course, I bought this stand, and that may not have been on my agenda, and probably wasn't brought up in the conversation. But this particular one, this doesn't have the configuration. And what that means is there's an assembly that goes out here. So if you're looking at one of those, it's going to extend this whole length a little bit, and a different arm that goes in the front through the center section, and it clamps. This is pretty good. I got this like nice visual right here. It bolts to this section of the upright. So apparently, I haven't even opened a box, but according to their instructions online, you have to drill 2 holes here and here for the sleeve to slide around, the U-shaped piece, I guess, and it'll support the crank and then, you know, drive the mechanism. Now, the problem I'm going to run into, I can't demonstrate that. I can't add that right now. With the car on the rotisserie, I'm not going to take all this apart just to put that on. I'm comfortable right now rotating the stand and getting it where I need it, but I will add that later on, and I'll probably do a video on that. Now, Also, they mentioned that all the late versions of these stands already have the holes incorporated. They're already there. So just some information for you if you're looking at getting one of these rotisseries. And I will say, I am so happy that I have this rotisserie. There's so much that I've done to this car now that it would be very difficult to make it look the way it does without the rotisserie that I'm using. Being able to turn it and get it sideways and spray paint and turn it back around and spray the other way, all that stuff. I'll probably never do another car that's not on a rotisserie. Now, I say that, and what I mean is I won't do one like this. So I may do a simpler version, restoration type of thing, where it doesn't need to be on a rotisserie, but there's definitely a benefit to having it there. Now, I would not do any extra structural welding, of course. Nothing that's going to cause problems later. For all that, it has to be on a foundation, get everything welded in, and then once it's solid, put it on the rotisserie and take advantage of it. So, okay, that's kind of the basics for tonight. If you're new to my channel, I focus on classic cars. Tends to be a lot of Mustangs, obviously, but when I say classic, my generation of cars would be from the mid 50s up until the late 70s. That's kind of my bracket that I tend to run to when I say classics. So if you have any questions, or if you have anything you want to bring up as far as a subject, by all means, share that information here, and we'll see if we can't talk about those things. We've shared a lot of that over a couple years, and it has helped people out to get information whenever they're struggling with a project. So let's see who's here tonight. First in, Rick Gain. Yes, Mustangs are popular. That was my question. Mustangs are so popular. Why? Don't know why, but I became fixated with them since I was 15 years old. So there's a bell for Rick. You also get a bell for participating. That's right. And Rick says, I hope everybody is doing well. Yes. Rick Stevenson checking in. Good evening, everyone. And usually when Rick shows up, that's my signal to get my first sip of coffee. Rick has supplied me with coffee more than once. So thank you, Rick, and glad you're here. Terry Keithley. Evening, Barry and all. Betty and I, plus the cats, are ready for Monday night. Please hit like and thumbs up. Yes. Thank you, Terry. Rusty's Mustang Garage. Hoping to get in before the end. Don't forget the thumbs up and like buttons. Yes, thank you, Rusty. Travis Holtman. Okay, there it goes. Travis, glad you're here, Travis. Appreciate you. Travis is at the top of the list on Patreon, by the way. Dave Tyson. Good evening, all. Evening, Dave. Glad you're here. Robert Hackett. Hi, y'all. I'm new here. Have a 66 coupe I call Rusty. The name speaks for itself. Hope everyone is having a great Monday evening. I'm Robert Hackett from Canton, South Dakota. Glad you're here, Robert. Appreciate you. We also have Robert, the Infernal Craftsman, checking in. Evening, all. Evening, Robert. Hope all is well out in Texas. Nandu. Hi, Barry and everyone. I want to say Nandu's up in Pennsylvania, I think. Car Guy Troy, checking in from Utah. Glad you're here, Troy. Dawn's Manufactory, checking in from sunny Ohio. So that's 2 weeks you've been in Ohio, Dawn. That's pretty good. Dawn is usually in wet and rainy PDX. Also, I just watched today a video that Dawn had posted with his car Betsy, and that was a fun video. He went with his brother to drag strip, where it was a test and tune type of event, and was running the Mustang down the track, had a little camera on his head, and that was pretty cool. I know that Don is somewhat disappointed with his runs, I think, because he missed a shift. And I commented, I don't know if he saw the comment or not, but whenever he showed that video, I wasn't sure if he missed a shift or if the clutch was slipping, and it just didn't sound right. But apparently he missed a shift, and he needs some more practice with that, but I'm sure he'll improve as he moves forward. Let's see, Rick, you spelled cars wrong in the description for the stream. I fixed that. Thank you for that. I know I saw your comment and I went ahead and fixed it. So thank you for that. Bob Shoemaker. Evening all from Oklahoma. No nasty tornadoes tonight. Wonder if the rubberized undercoat is as good as the Schutz. You know, I would say they're very comparable. Be honest. The advantages are there's advantages to either one. So with the spray can, you've got a rattle can, you shake it up and you get in and you angle it around and get where you want to be and whatever. With the Schutz coating, you have the extended kind of tip on there and you've got a trigger control rather than your finger trying to aim and, get in there. Now, I've sprayed both of those on this car and I've overlapped some of that and I can't see a difference. So I really don't think there's much of a difference. I think it's about the application. It appears that with the Schutz gun, you can spray further without it fanning out quite as big like the spray can would do. And also you can regulate the air pressure with that. And I was able to, thankfully with the rotisserie, tilt the car up sideways and get the spray gun up inside the wheel wells behind the wheelhouses, right, where the trunk drop off is. And I coated the inside of that as well. Now, you could probably do that with the spray can. But I think I feel like I've been able to do a better job with the Schutz gun itself. So, and they've done a great job engineering that with the throwaway like straws. So pretty happy with that whole setup. And I'm so glad that Charles had bought that stuff. So glad to hear, Bob. Good question. There you go. Wild Bill. Hello, Barry. Happy Monday to you. Likewise, Bill. Glad you're here. Steve Reed. Hello, Barry and everyone. Hope all is well. Yes. I'm kind of jumpy on the bell. I'm not hitting it hard. I'm trying to make sure it gets heard. Jerry is checking in. Howdy, Barry. Howdy, Barry. Howdy, y'all. I hope you all are having a wonderful day. My PT Cruiser is sold. Y'all missed out on a great car. Sorry. Well, okay. I don't need to have a PT Cruiser, but I'm glad you sold it. Rusty says, hello all, and Barry, thumbs up. Thank you, Rusty. Did you respond earlier? Do I have two Rusty's Restorations? Oh, I have Rusty's Mustang Garage. Sorry. And Rusty's Restoration. All right. Jerry says, Robert did a very good job with the listing and getting it sold. Well, a couple bells for Robert. Richard Vogel. Good evening, Barry. Your trip sounded great. It was, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit. I've got some great news about the trip that I took and some sad news to follow along with that, unfortunately, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Larry Bibby. Hi, guys. Hi, Larry. Glad you're here. C&J Hoyt. Hello, all. Yes, rotisserie is the way to go. I bought one and stuck the car on it to pull it apart. Okay. They make different versions of the rotisserie. Obviously, there's this one, and then there's one called the roller hoop, which I wouldn't mind trying one of those. It's kind of it's a big pair of rings that you attach bracing to like the actual frame of the car, and you can rotate that thing completely upside down. I've seen them for several years, but just never had the opportunity to get one. And I can see the advantage of both, definitely. The Dutchman's Woodshack. Hey, how are you? I'm great. Hope you are well as well. Robert, in 1976, my first car was a 64.5 Mustang. That's cool. 1976. Whew. That was a while ago. The Dutchman, hey, I got my starter fixed, only to find now my power steering is acting up. Aww. That's a never-ending battle. Seems that way anyway. It's funny. We look at these cars now, and we're trying to restore them and make them as perfect as we can or whatever. And you wonder, what kind of quality are we getting now? Because when these cars were built, in the 60s, even into the 70s. I'm not saying you didn't have to do maintenance on them, like you didn't have a starter failure or a power steering pump failure or something like that, but it seems like you see more of that as a problem. So somebody puts a new part on, they go for a month, hardly even drive the thing, and something quits, or they put on something else. And you look at these cars that were built at that time period, and it's like, well, it runs and drives, or they were using them as daily drivers. They didn't have everything failing as it seems. I don't remember. I know, of course, my dad had the junkyard, and I know that we would have cars show up all the time that people were getting rid of, and they were still drivable cars. They just said, "Oh, it's got 100,000 miles on it. I don't want it anymore. I'll sell it to you for $100." And my dad would buy it and put it up in the junkyard, and that was a pretty common thing. The magic number was 100,000 miles back in the 60s and 70s. That was what the manufacturers pushed on us, saying, "Oh, if it makes it 100,000, you're pretty lucky." And the reality is, you do maintenance on it, it's going to go a long, long time, as long as it doesn't rust to pieces. So this is it seems like there's a common thread with these parts, not meeting the standards that they had back in the 60s and 70s. It's crazy. Faith Followers Customs, evening, Barry, and all. Hope all is well. Likewise. Nandu says, yes, Berks County, PA. Awesome. I may not remember everything, but I do remember a few things. The Dutchman, where's a good place to get power steering kits from? My 66 was a 6-cylinder, I guess 6-cylinder one time, but now it's a 302. And parts guy looks at me as I'm nuts because I think it's a 6-cylinder, not an 8. So there you go. Yeah. If you go back and look at my videos, look on the 68, the Jade series. You can do a search on my videos. Type in Borgeson, Borgeson. So if you search Borgeson power steering, I have 2 videos of that kit that I put on my 68 Mustang, and it's been a good kit. Everything works. The only problem I had was I feel like I think it was a pressure line. I think it was a pressure line. I can't remember now which one of them was a little short, and not short that it didn't function. It was just close between the headers and the shock tower. Like it could have been either higher or lower, and it would have been fine. But I think I actually changed that out and put a different one on. But have a look at those videos if you want an idea of the Borgeson kit. And going forward, that's probably what I'll do if I add another system at some point to one of my Mustangs. So, but I recommend that. We have Resto Hub checking in from Australia. Hope you're well, Barry. Awesome. Australia, that's so cool. One day I want to visit Australia. I really do. And I know it's going to be pure luck if I can make it there. And there are a few people that are in Australia, but we don't have the scale of let's say how far away everything is from everything else, right? Like here in the States, and I've learned this recently, that let's say in Europe, somebody will say they are 10 miles or 20 miles or 30 miles, whatever, from something, right? And in the States, they say, how far away is it? And we'll say it's an hour, it's 2 hours, it's 3 hours. We don't even know what the mileage is. We just know how long it takes. And so I've often wondered, the people that follow me in Australia, I'm sure they're not clustered together somewhere. So if I ever made a visit and wanted to stop in, make a real big field trip of it, I don't know what it would mean to travel from place to place to place. I just can't grasp the scale of distance in Australia, because obviously I have nothing to scale it by. So maybe one day, who knows? Maybe one day I'll be able to make it to Australia. That would be so cool. But I'm glad you're here. Jay Living, hi Barry. I'm here 3 weeks in a row. I think he said it's supposed to be row, but he says roll. But that's awesome. That's awesome. Glad you're here. C&J, do you know how much you can widen the wheelhouse without getting into the frame on a 66 coupe? Not much. Yeah, really not much. I couldn't tell you specifically, but I know when I added the mini tubs to the Cobra Jet, which is going to be the same setup, it added 2.5 inches of width, but I had to cut the frame rail to make that happen. Now, I know when I did the mini tubs on the 68 Camaro, like the Mustang, when you cut the frame rail, you actually remove it and add in a piece. You have to joggle it to make it go around. I said joggle, bonus. On the Camaro, you did a slice out of the frame rail, and then you welded a plate in where that was. Now, that may be an option on the Mustang if you only wanted to add an inch or something. So you might be able to take, just skim out, let's say slice out an area of that frame rail and then weld in a plate that'll allow you to push the wheelhouse over an inch, something like that. But there's really, I don't know of any other way to, get that space that you need. But that's a good question. I don't know what the exact number would be, but I would say it's not going to be much, like 3/4 of an inch until you're up against the frame rail, I think. The Dutchman, problem is nobody knows how to work on them. Yeah, that is another problem. They just don't know how to fix these cars. Rick, just want to say I really enjoy these Monday night live streams. Awesome. I'm glad you're here, Rick. I've been doing this for a couple years now, and I have pretty much stayed on point, I think, with Monday nights. I've only missed a few over the past year and a half, 2 years maybe, and either it was an illness or a social event that I had to attend where I couldn't be here. But I do like doing these, and it helps to have people showing up and being part of this. It really does. Real nautical fishing. Hey Barry, hope all is well. Maybe you'll remember me this time. I'm curious if you found any kind of rotisserie I could put the car on when rebuilding the front subframe. God bless Rusty 68 Coupe. Yeah, I don't know of a specific rotisserie that you could do that with. I don't know anybody that has done that, because the rotisserie, the value is, of course, you can rotate the car around and flip it over and all that sort of thing. So you have to have something structural to mount to. And then once you were to suspend front frame rails and everything else, you have to make sure that's tied in as well before things get out of shape. So I really don't know of any route for that. But I did get your messages on Facebook Messenger, so glad you're here. Dave Conville, good evening. Evening, Dave. I think it's our first Dave sighting. From New Jersey, by the way. Resto Hub, if you decide to visit Australia, we'd love to catch up and have a drink. That would be, I would love to do it. I'm serious. I really would. And I'm going to talk about something I did this past weekend, which is pretty awesome. But I would love to do that. Robert, 3/4 to an inch is all you can widen the wheel wells before cutting the frame rails. There you go. I knew it was close to an inch, but I was really thinking 3/4. DJT, why are Mustangs so popular? That's a good question, and one that I think is pretty easy to answer, honestly. I watched this TV show on Tubi, Tubi, and it's American Muscle Car or something or other, and it was really cool for them to give some perspectives on the generational changes that happened early to mid 60s up into today. And that show will focus on classic cars. They start off with the GTO, and that's the first so-called muscle car that they had on there. And they talked about the fact that the younger people wanted a smaller vehicle. They didn't want their parents' big vehicle. And the Mustang was the first to really fit into that category. Although they had the Falcon, and Chevy had the Chevy 2 and stuff like that, which were small cars, and we all know the Falcon is really the pre-runner to the Mustang. Uh, they really talk about how that niche market happened and then just grew from there, and it became so popular, of course. And then they added in the as it became more in the muscle car bracket. Mustang was really an economy car to start with, and then the popularity forced it to grow into more of the muscle car. But it's really, really neat the way that happened. And of course, the Mustang led to all of the pony cars. It led to the Camaro. It led to the Barracuda and the Challenger and the Javelin and all that stuff as well. So you got to give credit where credit is due. The Mustang led the way in all that stuff, and we wouldn't have had near the cool muscle cars and stuff today if it wasn't for the Mustang. So that's kind of how I look at it. Rick says, since it is known you have cats in the viewing audience, you should bring your wife's cat out to the garage to make an appearance on the stream. Yeah, that's a great idea. No. No, not going to happen. Stephen Franks, phone audio good. YouTube TV muted low. I know you said corrected. I'm not sure what are we talking about? The cars and coffee thing? I did correct that on the I'm sorry, Steve. I don't know what we're maybe there's some confusion, but yeah. Okay. I'm not sure what that implies, but thank you. Michael Pagliarini, evening all. Evening, Michael. Glad you're here. Rick, I still keep in touch with a teacher I had in grammar school who was very special and helpful to me. Her first car was a 65 Mustang purchased new when she got her teaching job. That's pretty cool. Jay Living, I've seen people take 4x8 sheets of plywood and 2x4s and build a rotisserie. It's on YouTube. Yes. Yeah, those are the tip-over rotisserie type things, or tip-over jig, as they're called. So, yeah, you can do that. C&J, I had a 61 Falcon, dropped a 302 in it, and was a 13.5 in the quarter all day long. I'll bet. Yeah, I mean, those are little lightweight cars. The Dutchman, I grew up where those guys were testing the Mustang and Cobra with Carroll Shelby. Ooh, that would be cool to have seen. Well, I don't know if you saw it or not, but that would have been cool to see that. Cargo Troy Mustang was supposed to appeal to women. Secretary car was a marketing, whatever that means. It was way more popular than they thought it would be. That is true. It was way more popular than they thought it would be. The Dutchman, I used to see them testing the cars in Willow Springs Raceway in California. I saw some awesome stuff. Cool. Rick, just so you know, I was just so you, I guess, know, I was fully aware I was not going to get a bell for my cat appearance comment. Yeah, no cats. I did want to bring up, as I was talking about, we were talking about the Mustang and how it became popular and all those sort of things. Last night I watched an episode of that show, and it was talking about the Pontiac Firebird, and they tried to make it a point to say it was not the same as the Camaro. Okay, we'll go with that. They said it was not the same as the Camaro, but they said the styling cues, they lowered it 1 inch, right, to make it different, and then they added the split bumper and that sort of thing. But they also talked about how the racing industry created I don't know if it was, whatever it was not Trans Am series, but prior to that it was SCCA or something. And once they did that, then it was like 68, 69, 70, whenever they really had a push for that, everybody was trying to build a car for that market. And so Pontiac did their version, and they called it the Trans Am. What was funny about it, though, is the Trans Am that they built would not qualify for the racing, because at that time you were only allowed, I think they said 305 cubic inches, and they had some sort of 400 or some big engine in the Firebird, and it wouldn't, a Trans Am as they called it, and it would not meet the requirements. And eventually they put in a smaller engine, and although the car met the requirements, they said it really didn't even compete with some of the stuff that was being put out. It was really cool when you look at that stuff, and you look at the history of how the engineering leaps and bounds took place and what they did to improve handling and braking and all those things. It's just really, really neat to see that. Stephen, I heard an engineer once say it's all about how they bend the outer body lines. Today they build 5 to 10 cars off same platform, Fusion to Bronco, for example. Yeah, and that's true. They now have this platform and that platform and whatever to make cars from. Back in the 60s, you were lucky if the frame was the same from one year to the next. They would do all kinds of stuff. Ralph Burrows, hello Barry. Mustangs are popular because of your channel. First 65 fastback in 71. Oh, first car, I guess. Sold it for $900. Got my second 2 years ago, about 6 months away from completion, and a lot more money. Thanks for your help. Oh, awesome. Glad that I have been of service. Car guy, Ollie the cat is not deterred from watching due to lack of feline love. He is still here watching. Huge fan. Okay. And I've got gnats flying around. That's always fun. The Dutchman, back in those days, everyone was trying to outdo the other guy in hopped up motors and even drag racing back in the 50s, 60s, when all these guys were building the crap out of car motors. Yes, and they definitely were. They were pushing the boundaries with those old engine castings and all that sort of thing. And of course, the different intake manifolds and different heads and all these sort of things. So, okay. I'm going to tell you about something I did this weekend because it was worth it. As y'all know, I served in the military, and so there's my Army flag, 10th Mountain Division, what I served in. And I served from 85 to 88, okay? I wouldn't trade it for anything. I thoroughly enjoyed my time there. I know there were days it was rough, days it was not fun, but I enjoyed being in the military. And in that time period, I got to be friends with a group of people because that unit, we were a cohort unit, which meant that you started off basic training together and you stayed together all the way through your time. So from day one until we left, we were all together. And we became very bonded in that aspect. And over the years, you lose contact with people. Some people you may lose contact by choice. Some you may lose contact just because, whatever. And over the past few years, I've had contact with a friend of mine up in Chicago. And we had served together. And long story, I'm not going to go into all the details of our time together. But we've stayed friends for all these years. And recently, about, 3-4 months ago, I was contacted by his wife asking if I would show up to his 60th birthday party. And I said, yes, I'll be there. So I had hoped that I wouldn't have any conflict or difficulty making this happen. What I ended up, I wanted to, because I worked for the airlines, I can fly free, but it's flying standby, okay? So that means you're gambling to get on a flight. And every time I fly, that's what I do. I don't have a choice. Plane tickets are not cheap, but I said, I'm going to try to get there. So I arranged for flights on Saturday morning. The party was Saturday night. flight Saturday morning, rental car arrangements, hotel arrangements, had all that set up. Tried to fly out of Delta or out of Atlanta on Delta, and couldn't get on a flight. Now I'm panicking. I'm thinking, what am I going to do? So I did some conversations with their gate people, whatever, and came to the conclusion that I could fly to Milwaukee. So I did. I flew to Milwaukee. I had to rearrange, get on the phone, rearrange my rental car. Stayed at the same hotel though, and went from left Atlanta, flew to Milwaukee, and they had a very cool display there. They had an old Curtiss Flyer or something airplane hanging up in the top section there. And let me tell you, it was a big difference between flying out of Atlanta, which is just feels like chaos because it is the busiest airport in the world, and landing in Milwaukee where it's like, oh, it's like dead quiet in here, and I can hear myself think. So anyway, I ended up renting the car, drove 2.5 hours to get to the location, Steger. I think the city was Steger, Steger, and got my hotel taken care of. Went to the party. Now, this was just a fun situation. Haven't seen each other in about 36 years. His wife had me hide behind a curtain, and so whenever everybody had said hello and all this other stuff, and it was a party atmosphere, she had his back turned away and brought me up behind him, and he freaked out, which was really cool. It was such a good time, and so we had to party about 3 hours, and then I went back to the hotel, and then Sunday morning I woke up and I realized, well, my flight doesn't leave till 12 or almost 1 o'clock. And so I quickly took a picture of my location and posted it on Facebook, and I said, does anybody live around here? I'd love to meet you if you live around here. And so a guy named Steve responded. He's like, I'm 10 minutes away. He said, I'll buy you breakfast. I'm like, cool. So I left the hotel and I met Steve at a restaurant, and we had breakfast together. Talked for, maybe 40 minutes or something. And then I managed to go to back to Midway Airport and got on my flight and flew back to Georgia. And so it was a whirlwind kind of weekend, but man, it was so worth it to interact. And I'm not going to post a picture up here, but there's me and Steve in front of the Blueberry Hill Cafe, I think is what it was. Yeah, Blueberry Hill Cafe. And also the this was up in Milwaukee. So it was a good time. I didn't plan this obviously to happen this way, but it was a good time, and I got to meet my old Army buddy. So all that is great because we all need to have those interactions. We all need to have those connections, and I posted pictures on my Army page, and I posted pictures to my personal page, and it was really fantastic. And then, and I'm not trying to bring everybody down from that point, today I get a notification that one of the guys that I served with has passed away. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like riding this cool wave of, man, this is so cool. And then here's another guy that I served with, and he's gone now. And I'm thinking, man, life is too short. Life is way too short. We have these opportunities that we need to take advantage of. If it's meeting old friends or all those things, we can't miss those chances. We can't miss those chances because you don't know. You just don't know. It's just like I said before, the last time I talked to my brother and then he was gone. Last time we talked to Charles, he was on the live stream the night that he passed away, you know? And you just don't know. You just don't know. So everybody take a chance. If you get a chance, if you're invited to a party or if you are given the opportunity to meet some of your old friends or whatever it may be, I recommend you do it. Time is short. Time is short. Okay. I'll get off of that little plane for a moment. Let's see. Dave Conville. I won't make any comments tonight. Just know about the cats. They're watching. Okay. Jay Living, is there anyone still around that worked at the San Jose plant in the 60s and 70s? My Mustang was built and sold to a employee. Also, thank you and all our veterans for your service to our country. Yes, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know if anybody on here would still be around, the San Jose, as far as that goes. I doubt anybody is watching that may have been part of that. I do know this car, the Cobra Jet, was a San Jose car, and I don't have a piece in here, but I had somebody asking me about the color, right? So what we're spraying on it, and I have two pieces of metal of the original car inside the quarter panel, which has that red oxide primer on it, and the other one was on the bottom side of the cowl. So there's two definite locations where it had the red oxide. And I know that there was people would say, well, it either had red or it had this slop gray, as they called it. But I would 100% say this car had the red oxide. The Dutchman says, nice. Yeah, talking about the trip. Yep. And that town is not far from me. I'm in Geneva, Illinois, western suburbs outside of Chicago. Oh, okay. And, of course, life is too short and cut warm. Time is a thief. It definitely is. It definitely is. Like I said, we hadn't seen each other in 36 years. And he was very, very excited. I mean, I was excited, but he was over the top excited. And part of that was our relationship we had while we were in the military together. Just some things that we interacted in certain ways that really is memorable. So we'll just kind of go that way. Kilroy, well, that's a Kilroy's Odessa Woodworking and Maker Shop. I don't know if that's AI or Al. Ding, time is a thief, enjoy it all. Yes. Yes. Yeah, there's no way around that. Betty Keithley, thank you for your service to our country. Good old USA. Thank you. Thank you, Betty. Hope all is well. So, you probably saw the video, of course. I hope you saw the video, whether you saw it on YouTube or Patreon. And I will tell you that the YouTube video that I did for the primer and sealer was about 30 minutes long. And the one I did for Patreon is about an hour long. Because I also did the fabrication work on the roof straps or the channels where the quarter and the roof overlap. So I had added that to the other video. Now, everything has turned out really nice, and there's still a good bit to do. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the engine bay. I was debating on how to approach it because now that I have everything in primer, essentially, and I already have the paint for the engine bay, I was debating on this for a good part of the day today and even yesterday thinking about it, was if I were to install the suspension, the steering arms, all that stuff underneath, make it so it sits on the ground. And either I would paint, we'll get it to the point where the whole car is painted, or I paint the engine bay. I don't want to paint the engine bay with everything bolted in. Doesn't make sense. Now you end up painting the idler arm, the backside of the control arms, the bolts, all that sort of thing. And I thought, you know what? I think it's further ahead just to paint it, and then I can mask it all off and leave it that way for whenever it gets to the eventual paint stage itself. So that's what I'm going to do. The next video is going to be about painting the engine bay. And I'll probably go over some of the parts that I'm going to have, the suspension pieces and stuff like that, that I'm going to be installing. And I mentioned in one of the, well, I don't know which video it was, the coil springs. Now I have the original coil springs that came out of the Cobra Jet, and they're not pretty, I'll say that, but I think they're going to be okay. I'm going to have to blast these. You can even see, I think there's a paint line that they had on these. I'm not going to replicate that, but I am going to have to clean these up and get them back in the car. And the thing is, I do not want to put everything together or paint it and then put everything together, or I don't want to take things apart. I'm out of focus. I don't want to have to put everything, there we go. I don't want to have to do everything twice. You know, let me relate this story real quick. A young man who is a friend of my son, he had interacted with me when he was a young teenager. And I said some things to him that he still uses to this day. Now, one of those things came to light. We were moving. We were he was helping my son move into his house. And so they had all this stuff in storage. And I was helping, of course, load stuff up, get it on the trailer, all these sort of things. And this young man, he made a comment that we were moving something, and he said, how did he do? You only want to touch it once, okay? And I said, that's great advice. Where did you learn that? And he said, I learned that from you. And what that means is, you only want to do, like, let's say you're taking out the trash or something, right? And if you take the trash out and you set it on the ground, and then you go over to the trash can or you get distracted, now you have to go back and pick up that trash to get it in the trash can. Or if you're out here in the garage and you're working on something and you have tools in your hand and you don't need those tools, but you move them from one place to another to get them out of your way, it doesn't make any sense. Go ahead and take those tools, move them to the toolbox, meaning you only touch it once. You're not doing multiple touches. That's the same thing I'm looking at with the car. I don't want to put the suspension on, take it off, put it back on. I'm not going to do all that. It doesn't make sense. I only want to do it once. And that's kind of how I try to approach everything when I'm working on these cars. Only do it once. Now, does that mean I'm going to not that I'm going to avoid test fitting? No, I will test fit multiple times. But when that final time comes, I only want to put the fender on one time that it's finally installed and done. So if that makes any sense at all, I think that's kind of what the way I look at it. And I think we all kind of see that as well. Whenever we're doing things, you only want to touch it once if you can get away with it. Okay. Where are we at? The Dutchman, I really enjoy your show. My life has been hell the last few weeks. Listening to you makes me feel better, even with my possessed Mustang. Okay. Hopefully that's a good way. Not like, this guy's life is terrible. No. My life's not too bad. All right. Kilroy. It's a mouthful, yes. Kilroy or Al is fine, not AI. Okay. Well, okay. Thank you, Al. And he says, Jeff, they are all... Or what? They are all possesses from those years. Oh, possessed. Oh, they are possessed. I guess what you're saying. Okay, I get it. I got you. The Dutchman says, "Hi, Kilroy," and the Dutchman says, "I'll send you pictures." Okay. Okay. I guess not right now, but send me pictures later. And he says, "Hey, DW." All right. Says, "Chat later, off to work." Cool. Troy. A lot of folks document all those paint marks, etc. Concourse folks love that stuff. Lots of threads on the forums about what paint marks went where. Yeah. And I don't really, I'm not going to do all that. It's kind of silly. Stephen Franks, the Hensley video is good record of timing. Of course, one's own workspace determines most of our steps forward. Yes. Yeah, and that video, as I said, he did the underside, the top side of the car, and then he added the base primer or base paint all in one session in a paint booth. I can't do that. I mean, it's bad enough. I've got some overspray in here, obviously, but I just don't see it working out for me to do the engine bay later. I'd rather do it now, let it dry, mask it all off, and just leave it sit the way it is. But you're right. Thank you. Joseph, I agree. Painted my engine bay prior to assembly. Yes. Yeah, I did the light blue Mustang. I painted. I don't remember what the sequence was now. Whether I painted the blue first. I think I did paint the blue first, and then I painted the engine bay, I believe. But I didn't do it on a rotisserie either. So that's the difference too. That car was already on the ground, already had all the suspension in it. I never took any of that apart. So that was kind of where I was limited. But here I have full access. So I'm like, okay, let me knock this out. Betty says, "Where did you get the shirt?" This was probably, I have no idea. I really don't. I've had this shirt for years. I don't know where it's from. It might be from like Walmart or something. I don't even know. It's just one of my shirts that I've had. Smiley's Rust Bucket. No, I don't know what it says. No mercy. I don't even know. That's all I can say. I don't know. 67 Mustang Coupe Restoration. Hey Barry, speaking of paint, what is the textured chip protector coating that they use on the lower 8 to 10 inches of new cars? Have you ever used it during a restoration? I have not. That stuff, I don't know what the technical name for it is. I mean, there's something called chip guard. I don't know if that's the technical name, but it's either chip guard or rock guard, and it's usually a 3M product. I have used it on the collision cars, but I have never put it on a restoration car. In fact, Robert has a response: 3M rocker guard or the spray can 3M rocker panel coating. Yeah. I have not used it on the on restoration stuff, which it's not a bad. I mean, it would be a good thing to add, but I have not done that. Kilroy says, I think he meant he would send me pictures. Okay. The Dutchman, I'm thinking of selling a Mustang and getting a 1950s Chevy truck. Okay. I have no argument with that. I like the old 50s trucks. I would like to have a 55 wraparound rear window. Short bed. Yeah. I helped build one of those for a guy, and I even modified it. It had the little window in it, and I changed the whole back of the cab and made it a wide window truck, wraparound window truck. Thing turned out really nice. Okay, so So Dutchman and Kilroy are going back and forth. Okay. Well, if you send me any pictures, I mean, if you want to send pictures, you can send them here, and I can put them up on the live stream. Jeff, awesome, man. Awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate that so much. I really do. Glad you're here. Randall, late to the party. Hey, from Mountain Green, Utah. Glad you're here, Randall. Hey, why don't you come by my place sometime and dry ice blast some cars for me? I know you have that as a business. Might be a bit of a drive to get out here, but... Dutchman says, hey, Kilroy, when you're done, send me a text. I have a question for you. Oh, I don't know how you guys could get in contact on here. Everything is, I mean, you could post whatever you know, an email or whatever you want, but just let you know, everybody's going to see it. So it's up to you on that. And if you do want to send a picture or something to get up on the live stream, there's my email at the bottom of the screen. So if you were to, if you want to send that, that's fine. We can go from there. Oh, okay. So Kilroy and Dutchman, we know each other. Okay. I was wondering. Randall, we were in Nashville last week, dry ice blasting for ExxonMobil. Wow. Yeah, that's a bigger project probably than anything I could offer you. But yeah. You know, in hindsight, I probably would have really liked to have blasted the bottom of the Cobra Jet. When I started on it, I was like, I know that I can do this. I know I can, clean it off, but it would have been nice to have somebody just come by and blast it. And I don't know anybody who does that stuff around here. I really don't. And there's probably guys who have shops, like regular like body shops or restoration shops, who do that at their own location. But I just didn't know anybody who would do it. So I said, well, I'll do it myself. So I think, fine, I'll do it myself. Yeah, kind of thing. Stephen Franks, Barry, where are you on the drivetrain on this Mach 1? Okay. If I haven't brought it up, I'm not going to do the drivetrain on this car. There's too much involved at this point, let's say. The plan initially for the Cobra Jet build was for me to just do the sheet metal work, and that was it. That would be the stop point. So technically, I would be right at close to the stop point of this project. But I've been asked to paint the car, so I'm going to paint the car, and it's going to go back to the original color, the black jade. My plan is, because I don't want to get caught up in all of the stuff, putting in the interior, putting in the wiring, putting in the brakes, putting in the engine and transmission, and all those sort of things. Although I think it would be beneficial for everybody to see that happen, I don't know what that timeline looks like, because I know she is dealing with just getting the engine figured out and the transmission and the interior. Everything's going to have to be addressed in one way or another, and I can't push myself into that and make that happen. There's just too much going on, and I plan to paint it. I don't know how far I will get with all of that as far as paint. Like, I want to do the paint, get the stripes on the car, on the hood, and then I know the car came with the gold and white stripes, the Mach 1 stripes on the side. I kind of don't, I can do that stuff. I can put that on, but I kind of don't want to, because until everything is on the car, all the door panels, glass, everything in place the way it should be, I'm a little concerned that the alignment won't be dead on. Like the door may need another adjustment or something along those lines. So I don't know if I want to go that whole route and do all that sort of thing. It's just where we're at. It's just where we're at. I know that it would be great to see this car to turnkey completion, but I just don't see it happening. Not for me, because the timeline would be pushed way out, and I've got other projects that I need to do, and I've got my own stuff that I want to get done, and so that's where I'm at this point. I don't foresee me doing the rest of the car. Paint is probably where everything's going to stop, but just letting you know that's where we're at. So, but again, I know everybody would love to see the whole thing done. Good question. Michael, what color should the inside of the cowl be? Body or satin black? That's a good question. That is a very good question. It depends on what you want for the end look. Let's say, like, when Ford did the early cars, they didn't even put any primer in there. You basically got overspray that went into the cowl, and that would be body color. Now, in these cars, I'm going to assume the same thing, but they probably did a better job of getting that color in there. So what I have done in this case, and because the car is black jade, it's going to be black jade, it's going to be dark green, I had already sprayed the inside of the cowl with Rust-Oleum, and I did a black. Now what I might do, haven't decided just yet, but I might do is scuff that Rust-Oleum, so when I do spray the green, that it actually coats the inside of it. What you're going to run into is variances. So let's say you're doing a yellow car. Well, do you want the inside of that to look yellow or do you want it to look black? There's debate on that. And it depends on the car too, because the early cars, the cowl vent was part of the cowl, whereas the 69, that panel sits on top. So you can paint that off the car even. You can get in there with a paint gun and spray the color wherever you want. So that may be beneficial as well. So it really depends on the car. I know I was looking at an original, well, I say original, a restored 69 for ideas on stuff like that. But I didn't see anything in particular on the cowl. Like they didn't do a close-up picture of that. So I don't know for sure what they did on that particular car. But that's where I would look at was what did it, how would you want it to look yourself? For me, I'd rather have the color of the car inside, like especially the 65 to 68. I want the body color of the car. Now, also, I want to point out, there are some ideas that I've learned from some friends who did these cars. And one of them was they did a 65 or 6 car, and it was, I think it was red. And they painted the inside of the cowl before they welded the top half on. And what they also did, and I thought this was a brilliant idea, they took a piece of thin plastic and they taped it over the inside of that cowl before they put the top half on. And what they ended up doing was once they sprayed everything and they were happy with it, the fenders were off the car. They went into the side vent opening, where the cowl has that water vent. They went in there with a long pair of needle nose pliers, or they had strings attached or something, and they pulled that whole piece of plastic out, and that left the inside of the cowl looking like it was painted correctly. I mean, it was pretty cool. I'd never thought about doing that, and it was really a simple fix. But you could easily see where you could go with that. You could just lightly tape in that piece of plastic, and then when you're all done, pull that thing out, and it would be just really cool. Oh wow, okay. I've got to download some pictures here. Randall sent me some cool stuff. Now I really am jealous of what the dry ice blasting can do. Yeah. If I could figure out a way to make it happen here, I would do it. Let me delete a couple pictures. All right. So, give me just a second. So Randall sent me this picture. Let me pull this down. Sent me this picture. And then he sent me this picture. So, yeah. Look at that. So I'm assuming that's what dry ice blasting can do. If there's one more picture he sent me. And I've never seen dry ice blasting being done. But look at that. That's an old, I think the 59 Impala or something. And just taking off that undercoating. Wow. Okay. That's pretty cool. Now I'm jealous. Dave Tyson. Too bad you can't find someone to buy it as is. Talking about the Cobra Jet. Yeah. And it may come to that. I don't know. I really don't know. I know that she has the original engine and transmission, but they're not in the best of shape. And then you start thinking about all of the correct pieces and parts that belong to this car, what's supposed to be where, and all the stuff. It's really going to make it difficult. And I don't know that. I just don't know what her avenue is as far as once it's painted and it's a roller again. I just don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. Stephen Franks, that's fine, and that's why restorations take years. Enjoy your content. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, Randall, got those pictures. That's pretty amazing what that dry ice blasting can do. Rick, when are we doing the cars? Is it possible to convert the top of the cowl to be bolt in instead of welding? I'm going to say no. The problem with the cowl, especially the early cars, is it's part of the window frame. So where the windshield sits is part of the upper cowl. I mean, there's just no way around that. And that's the same from 65 to 8. And then the 69, 70 cars, the upper cowl is of course welded in and also part of the window or windshield opening. And then the bolt-on piece, actually screw-on piece, that goes behind the hood, I mean, that's just a lightweight piece at that point, which was, great that they did that, because the early cars, you had the the wiper motor mounted on the back bottom side of the cowl, and of course the posts went into the cowl. Like, you had to bolt it there. I say into the cowl. It went slightly above and through the cowl. But the 69 car, they changed all that, and the wiper motor is actually inside of the cowl. That's why they have that bolt-on panel that goes on top. So I don't see any way you could make it any different than what they had created. The fact that it's a unibody car and everything is welded to everything else kind of limits what you can do. There's no way to kind of redesign what they've created. But we have to go with what they did back in the day, and they all had variations. Look at the like the Camaros even. They were the 67 to 68 or 68, 67 to 69, I should say. Camaros really shared more of this design of the 69 with the air boxes on the side of the cowl, whereas the 65 to 8 cars didn't have all that. They just had the towers, right? So you had the airflow coming straight down in the tower, and then it flowed into the car. Whereas these cars had the side air boxes, and the air come in from the top around and went through the kick panels. That's what they did on the Camaros. In '67, that's how they were, up till '69, of course. And we know that the Camaros, I don't know if everybody knows, that they don't have the weld-in front frame rails. There's 4 bolts that hold the front frames to the Camaros. So that's a unibody car, but it's from the unibody from the firewall back. The front section is the regular frame rail, regular style frame rails, but there's 4 bolts that hold it onto the body. So bit of a difference then. Michael, body color then, my car is red and the inside of the cowl was rust color, almost red. Yeah, just make it red. That'll be good. That'll take care of it. So, anyway, like I said, I'm going to be, oh, hold on. Rick, if you have the ability to go back in time, what would you suggest the designers of the Mustangs do different, if anything? The designers of the Mustang? Well, that's a tough question to answer quickly. I know that I would probably, talking about the torque boxes, obviously we know the first cars didn't have them, so it would have been nice to incorporate the torque boxes sooner. The other thing is the lack of frame under the car. So we have aftermarket frame connectors that we put into these things. There's no reason they couldn't have had at least a box channel that could have mimicked that back then. So I think that would be something to look at. Now, although it's held up pretty well, I'm not necessarily a fan of the way they designed the suspension with the control arms, a little skinny lower control arm and a strut rod. I don't think that was the best idea, but yeah, I think that suspension could be improved upon. Even I know back then they were limited. They didn't have like the Mustang 2 style suspension stuff, but they could have probably used something a little better. The bushings were real, they were what they were back then. The rubber bushings weren't the best, but it's what they had. But the suspension, I think, could be improved upon. Other than some minor tweaks like that, I think the biggest thing would have been, hey, let's paint this whole car. Like, let's dunk this car in paint or primer before we put everything on it. I think that was their major downfall, was the rust that was getting into there. The air vent system, the cowl, was kind of weird, but it served its purpose as long as it was kept clean. And of course, the rust is what got through and ate everything out. So again, if they had primed the whole car like they do today, you see these videos where they take a body and they rotate it around through a giant vat of primer and let it drain out everywhere. I don't know if they could have pulled that off as well with these cars because of cavities holding fluids and stuff like that. But that would have been very beneficial to have primer on everything. But that's really, I'd have to think about some more things before I could give a better answer, but that's kind of the rough gist of it. I'll give you a bell, Rick. How about that? Robert, learn the command in AutoCAD so mirrored parts are actually mirrored, not just ballpark close. Yeah. Yeah, that would be nice. C&J, yes, on dipping the whole body, yes. Yeah, if they had done that, so many of these cars would still be together as opposed to what we're doing now, basically building ourselves new cars because of that stuff. Harvey checking in, Rally Cat Garage. Glad you're here, Harv. Hello, very late, but here, just in from a car cruise. Perfect night, 70 degrees. It's colder here than it is there. That's interesting. We've had a chilly day. It is currently 65 degrees here, and like I said, we got up this morning. It was like 62. It's supposed to get down to tomorrow, low of 59. So it's going to be high 50s, low 60s in the mornings, which is fine with me. Keeps the heat off and the AC off. We don't want to have those running, run up the power bill. Dave Tyson, rust is bad on cars. Yeah, and to in their defense, they didn't care, because to them it was these things are going to be driven for 5 or 10 years and then scrapped. That's the way they looked at it, and that's just what they did. They didn't consider that they would last this long by any means. You look at some of the cars even today that we have, like I have the Model A, the 31 Model A that was my grandfather's car. Well, that car is getting closer and closer to being 100 years old. You can still buy parts for that. You can still replace pieces and parts of that car. Back then, they were using wood for the floor and wood for the roof and chicken wire and but it seems like they held up better rust wise than everything built in the 60s. And I don't think they put any more paint or anything in there. It was heavier metal, and it was a different time period. We started using salt on the roads and chemicals, and people couldn't get away from it. In fact, if you go up to the Rust Belt, let's say, it's not uncommon to see a truck or car that is 5 or 10 years old, and the bottom of the cab is rusted off. And that's with even modern cars. And I've seen it. The bottom of the bed is gone. The bottom of the cab corners are gone. And we're talking about a truck that was built in the mid 2000s, and it's just falling apart. And that's because of all the salt and all the other junk they spray on the roads that you can't get away from. But it's it's part of the heritage of what we do, I guess, is create the problems as we move forward. David Bagels Pac-Man. Okay, welcome. Taking delivery of my dad's 66 coupe on Saturday. It is an unfinished project car, lots of body work in my future. Thanks for all the knowledge you give. It really helps. Cool. Interesting. Taking delivery of my dad's 66 coupe. Unfinished project. Oh, speaking of, I saw some pictures today on one of the Facebook forums. And the guy says he bought this car out of somebody's garage. And he was asking about buying a new body and replacing the VIN numbers on a new fastback dynacorn body. And everybody jumped on him. The car is a 1970 Boss 302 that is a lime green, or not bright. It's like a medium green color, whatever. But it's got patina. Like, I don't know. The car is covered up with stuff. There's piles of stuff on top of this car. But you can see the fender, and you can see it's Boss 302. The doors are off the car, but there's all kinds of junk all over this car. And I responded to him. I said, look, keep it as original as you possibly can. And in fact, I wouldn't even do any more than wash this car. And if it's got rust or patina on it, leave it alone. Just leave it. To me, that is the coolest thing, to have a car, like especially just picture a 302, a Boss 302 Mustang, that the paint is rubbed off of it or faded off of it or whatever. Uh, I wouldn't even want to touch it. I wouldn't want to restore it by any means. I would want to keep it that way. I think those cars look amazing when people just take care of treating that rust to make sure it doesn't, get any worse, linseed oil or whatever, and just leave it alone. Because once you take it apart or media blast it and start over or end up doing stuff like I'm doing to this car, well, it's never ever original again. It's done. You'll never get it back. I don't care about we talk about the stripes and the marks on a junk and all that stuff. Yeah, you can replicate that. But the guy who did that in 1969 or 70 or whatever, he's not the one putting that mark back on there. It's somebody copying what he did back then, or putting on little paint things or whatever. Yeah, you're replicating it, but it's not original anymore. It's never going to be original again. And as I said to them, unless it's got major rust issues where the floor is rotted out of it, clean it up, get it running again. Just leave it the way it is. Just leave it. Rick says it's only original once. That is 100% accurate. Terry Keithley, if anyone in Missouri sees a 69 Boss 429 in black cherry that came from Canton, Illinois, it was a one owner. He was original member of our club, Gear Jammers, Canton, Illinois. Interesting. Thank you, Terry. Brian Adkisson. Okay. Question: gas smell any way to reduce or eliminate it? Would like to be able to not have to leave my clothes in the garage before coming back inside. Okay. That's a tough question to answer. When you say gas smell, is it like all the time? Is it only when you're driving? Is it after you fill it up? Does there any puddles? I mean, there's a lot of variables there. You really shouldn't have a gas smell. You really shouldn't. Like, I could tell you my 68 sits in my house garage. You can't, there's no gas. You don't smell it. So I don't know what's going on with your situation. You could have gas hoses will, over time, crack and allow gas to seep out, which may cause problems like that. But unless you've got some sort of leak somewhere, I would say you really shouldn't be smelling gas at all. So you got to have something going on that is causing that to allow the vapors to stay or appear. Yeah, light a match, see where it goes. No, just kidding. Don't do that. But I would say, yeah, you have to figure out what's going on, because you shouldn't have any. Now, the other thing that I have on the 68 car is I have the little snap up gas cap. It has a little release on it, and that is a retrofit. I think it was from NPD that I did that, and you could do that one in two different ways. So this might be a thing to look at too. You could do it in two different ways. It comes with a simple gas cap that you would turn into the neck to seal off the gas or the vent, the opening, or you had the option of the actual cap itself. When it went up and hit that, it would supposedly seal. And I heard from people that it didn't always seal, and you would drive and gas would work its way out of the neck just from splashing around. It could come out. So I don't know if there may be a redesign on the on those necks. Like, it's just a pipe, right? And I don't know if somebody has redesigned them to where it has like a cone or not, to where the gas would come up and hit the underside of the cone and wouldn't allow it to come back out the fill neck. But that's, you got to figure out where you're getting that from before you can, you know. That's the answers I have for you. Figure out where you're getting the gas smell from first. Okay, so I have a couple pictures that Harvey has sent me. Let me see what I can see if I can download those real quick. And we're getting close to quitting time, so we'll see what Harvey has, what he sent. I'll share. I'll save that picture first, or save that picture. I'll show the other one first. So his comment was, I sent 2 pics from our cruise tonight. Rat rod ramp truck is very cool. So first I'll show you. Oh, I downloaded the wrong one. Hold on. I don't know why I downloaded that one first. Okay. So first we're going to show you Harvey's Mustang. And that car is so cool. I think Harvey said he painted that like panel by panel when he's putting it together. And it's the green from the bullet car, if I remember correctly. So that's pretty cool. And then that. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. That is very cool. What's funny is I think I have that same visor. I have that same visor hanging up in my rafters. That's nice. Okay. I think it's where we're gonna end it. I can feel my voice getting a little rough. So okay, yeah, you're welcome, Brian. Hopefully that helps you with the situation. But yeah. David, will all the original trim from a vinyl top car still fit if I don't go with a vinyl top for my restoration? That is a very good question. What you'll find is the trim on the quarters, or the roof to the quarters, is going to fit. If you have the holes there, you can put that back on. At the top, where it meets the windshield, the A-pillar where it comes down, I think it comes all the way to the bottom of the windshield. There's probably a clip or something that screws in there. But what your biggest thing you're going to run into is the vinyl roof cars. You're going to have to verify the fitment of your window trim, okay? Because they put more effort into a painted car when they coming down the assembly line. If the car was going to have a painted roof, they made more effort to make sure the window openings, the corners, were correct. I ran into this somewhat with my 68, which is a vinyl roof car. I noticed that the upper corners of the windshield opening were not shaped correctly. They were just kind of roughed in, because whenever they go to put the vinyl in, they don't care. They can put the coating, put the glue in there, whatever, put it on, and then when they put the trim in, it kind of takes all that up. So that's the big thing, is you don't worry. The exterior trim, yeah, you can put that on if you want to. Most people don't, but you can. But look at how your trim fits the openings. That's going to be your biggest thing, and you may have to use some body filler to shape those and get them to the right shape. Just so you know, that's probably the biggest thing I would be concerned with. So, okay, I'm going to call it a night. It's been good to be here. As I said, I will be working on the next video of painting the engine bay and getting that taken care of, and then I'll be working on the getting the suspension cleaned up and trying to get all that installed sooner than later, let's say. But that'll be it for tonight. So thanks for being here, and until next time, Take care of yourselves. See ya.